I'm Andrew from Torpedo 7 in Hamilton. This is...
Yeah, and I'm Chris from Trek Bikes, based here in New Zealand. And we're here to come and try and talk to you about e-bikes. An e-bike is a electronically powered bike. It's either done by a rear-wheel drive, a front-wheel drive, or a mid-drive, which is based at the crank. So you have different modes of access and powered by a big battery that's on the bike as well.
Yeah, so with that you obviously come a few different price points. So you get the rear wheel and the front wheel, typically the cheaper ones are the options, and the mid-drive, which is just a much smoother, comfortable ride, which is based, like Chris said, from the cranks, is a little bit more pricey, but again you get a much nicer experience with it all.
Generally, some of the mid-drive bikes tend to handle a lot more like a normal mountain bike that most people are probably pretty common with. Some of the rear drive and the front drive bikes may tend to handle a little bit differently, so there's pros and cons for both. But yeah, the most commonly good trail bike ones would be the mid-drive bikes.
It's going to come down to where you want to ride. Some people really would like to go out and ride the rail trails. So like from Hamilton, we have the Waikato River trails. We've got Krangahiki Gorge trails quite close by, which are a bit more like gravelly tracks that you can go and explore, which are highly popular. Like even if you go down to like the Hawke's Bay region, you can ride the waterfronts and get to places by bikes. The government's very much pushing it. So you've got your like gravel bikes that are great for that round town, parks, boardwalks, rail trail type of riding. And you've also got bikes like what's behind us with the Trek Rail that it wants to go to the redwoods and get taken to the top of the hill and having a whole lot of fun riding down. So it's going to come back to a little bit where you want to actually use the bike and what purposes you're using it for. So big depends. So e-bikes typically all have a couple different ranges they can do based on the modes they're in. So you've got eco, which is like the economy, which is going to give you a little bit more distance. So let's say up to 80 k's depending on variables. So in best case scenario, that's riding on the flat, someone that is of a smaller build, and they're helping pedal the bike a little bit more, versus someone that's using the bike on turbo is going to use it a little bit quicker. If you've got big hills involved, it's just going to drain that battery a little bit more. So it does take into account the conditions you're riding. But on average, I would say somewhere between 40 kilometres and 80 kilometres would be the range you'd get based on the mode you have chosen, and as well as obviously takes into account the terrain you're on. So flat riding, you're going to get a little bit more than if you're tackling some big hills out in the redwood forest or something like that.
Yeah, there is. Based on the amount of power that's actually being put through the motor or the drive unit, it does tend to wear out the componentry on the bike a little bit more. You might find that you're actually going faster, so you tend to use brake pads more often. The chain and the cogs on the back, they tend to wear out a little bit faster. So to use your gears correctly on the bike is another really big one. It's not like you leave your car in fifth gear at the intersection and hopefully start off. You go back to first generally and take off. So it's a little bit like that on a e-bike as well.
Same as like with your smartphones, they're everly updating, so you have to update your phones. Same as with an e-bike. So all the manufacturers like Trek and Bosch, they do updates on the firmware on the bike. So it is something we do. This is just a diagnostic kit that we have in store. So the mechanics at Torpedo 7, if you pop in, they can plug it in, do a firmware update, and it just gives you the latest and greatest on the technology they're running.
So there's a couple of different options with that, and that's really dependent on your bike that you've got, bike brand. With the Trek behind us that we've got, you get issued a set of keys. It plugs into the side of the bike, you twist it, and the battery falls out. It does have a second safety latch, so it's not just going to fall out. Take it off to charge it as well. So basically, you can also take the battery off the bike as well and charge it?
You can charge it in the bike, so most of the bikes nowadays have a charge socket on the frame. So you can have it in the garage, just plug it in, or you can, if you don't have an access point, you can take the battery off and charge it on the bench in the workshop or in the garage, or take it inside the house. So in terms of charging it, it's quite easy. You've got those two different options that allow you that versatility based on where you are, because you never know, you might be in a hotel room on a cool little bike trail. The longevity of a battery, it will vary a little bit between brands. So like in Torpedo 7 in particular, we're big with the Bosch and the Yamaha motors, but you typically get 1,000 to 2,000 full charge cycles. It's 100% charge cycles too. So with that, if you charge it, you ride it and down to 80% charge and top it up 20%, that's only 20% of a charge cycle. So you definitely have a long time with the battery.
Yep. Some manufacturers will have a prescribed amount for a warranty sort of time frame. I'm yet to still see one that's actually made it to that full extent of a warranty period. Most people think they'll charge their bike and it'll get to the certain point, but I've never seen one come close to it yet. So I think the longevity in the lithium batteries is, it's next level. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
really cool. No, get stuck into it. Yeah, absolutely. There's a pretty good safety rating on all of the components and stuff. You do need to dry it out for sure. Don't think that you can just get it to your next destination and think that it's fine. You do need to take a bit of care of it. Water is water, and especially if you're in a river, it's probably coming with a little bit of force. So it might find its way into a certain area that you haven't thought of. So yeah, take a bit of care of it. Pull the battery out and just make sure the terminals are fine. Anything to it?
All my thoughts would be is it's not a submarine, like I wouldn't submerge it for long periods of time, but they're designed to go out and have fun. So yeah, don't veer away from the water, like go and enjoy it like it's meant to be used.
Yep, absolutely.
You've got some cleaning products beside you. So yeah, giving it a nice wash.
Yep, absolutely. So here we've got the Muck Off, a fast action bike cleaner. It's pretty eco-friendly, so you can spray it on most areas of the bike. Spray it on, let it set, give it a bit of an agitation, like your washing machine, give it a gentle agitation, and you can hose it off after a couple of minutes. There's many other ways out there to do it. There's some after cleaning care products as well, but to do most of it, this is pretty much the way forward. Yep.
Yeah, and so yeah, exactly like that. So keeping it nice and clean, but also lubing your chains. So obviously after you clean it, I'd be lubing your chain afterwards, which Chris has one in his hand, but it's something you just put it on to keep that chain running smooth. But on top of washing it, depends how much you're riding the bike. I lube mine every week to 2 weeks. I obviously ride bikes quite often, but it's just going to help the longevity of your drivetrain. It's going to make things run that little bit smoother, and it's just going to help you have that more fun experience on the bike.
I personally would remove it for safety side of things. It's also Bosch, their prerequisite to remove the battery from the bike for travel. That's recommended from the Bosch as a manufacturer.
No, not at all. We like to see everyone out riding and having fun on a good bike. So if you haven't purchased it from us, that's totally fine. Pop in and talk to your local mechanic. Yep. We're happy to help. And we're also happy to try to do updates if we can, and just genuinely look after your bike and point you in the right direction. So by all means, come in and talk to us. We love to have a yarn and love to get people out there having a good experience.
Yeah, for sure. There's certain places where you should try and stay clear of, and that's something that the guys in the store can really sort of personalise for yourself. But yeah, taking care of the moving parts in the bike, so the front wheel bearings, the bottom bracket where the cranks are, you don't want to blast that with water too much. The rear chain and cassette and the rear bearings as well. You just want to be careful with it, but no water blasters. Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be coming to see your Torpedo 7 mechanics.
Yeah, you'll see these guys a lot quicker than you think.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the moment, outside it's about 30 degrees. It's been beautiful all day. I would use a bit of a dry lube. You have to use it a little bit more frequently, just due to the makeup of the actual lube itself. The particles in it break down a little bit quicker. Something in the wet lube tends to have a bit more longevity. So some prefer the wet lube all year round and they just maintain it, clean it, degrease it a lot more frequently. My personal preference is a bit of a wet lube, just because it feels, I don't know, I just like the feel of it under my feet. I can feel it through my feet. But yeah, some people have a different opinion on that. Sure is. Yep. Well done, Sandy. Yeah, absolutely. So there's an optimal range within most of the motors. So somewhere between the 55 or 60 RPM cadence, between 60 and 80 is really efficient for the battery's optimal use and longevity, but also motor performance as well. So yeah, trying to stay within that is really good. Absolutely. So yeah, using your gears properly, uphill, downhill, on the flats, and just it'll make you feel better as well. Yeah, pretty much on the whole, yeah, you do. So for like a normal, I'll call it an acoustic bike, that we all probably are quite commonly known, you will probably have to replace your chain and cassette a lot more regularly. You'll still get maybe 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers or maybe 1,500 kilometers out of your chain and cassette.
Popping in, we can put a chain checker on your chain, so if you keep on top of your chain, you are going to get a bit more longevity out of your cassette as well. So again, taking us up on that Torpedo 7 club deals and coming in for that safety check.
Using the correct lube as well at the correct time of day, giving it a proper wipe down, and really maintaining your moving parts on your bike, your chain and cassette, keeping everything clean. If it gets full of mud, yeah, give it a good hose off and get in there with your toothbrush or your scrubbing brush or whatever you need to get rid of that mud. So as soon as that chain picks up a little bit of mud, it's just going to go in there and it's going to act like a grinding paste. So keep everything nice and clean. This is a pretty good lube. You put it on, you cycle it around, and then you wipe off a bit of the excess. So it runs pretty nice on the chain.
Yeah, so with most of the e-bikes, they have the option of off, eco, sport, e-mountain bike, and turbo. So with that, you do have the different options, and they also have a walk assist mode, so you can ride them. Obviously, most people have an e-bike to get that little bit of eco, but some people will start their rides out riding without it, so they have that battery at the end of their ride. That would be the big thing. So yeah, some people definitely do. Yep. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, if you actually are out in the back of the hills and you completely drain your battery, you can still ride that bike home. It's going to be probably pretty hard. Some of the newer generation bikes actually feel like a normal bike to actually ride. Some of the predecessors to this one, they are a little bit harder to ride, and it's just to do with the motor makeup internally. Bosch have done a really good job by making a brushless motor, so it actually feels a lot more like a normal bike.
Big one. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you for all the great questions, and thanks for Chris for popping in from Trek Bikes. Any questions, come and find us.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks guys, appreciate your time.
See you out there.
See you out there.